So we know what has happened and why it has happened. Now let's discuss whether it would sustain. This is not the first time that India and Pakistan are trying to make peace. It has happened quite a few times in the last 6 years, even more in the last 7 decades. But all attempts have failed, often after highly charged summits and high-profile visits. So there's reason to be skeptical. Each time a peace agreement was reached, Islamabad promised to uphold it, only to throw all diplomatic nicety and border restraint to the winds. What has changed in the last 6 years is India's response. India struck at Pakistan's terror launch pads on occupied Kashmir. What I'm trying to say is this: the history of India-Pakistan ties is littered with many false dawns. What's the guarantee that this won't be another one? Our next report explores.
The year was 2014. The occasion was the swearing-in ceremony of Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi. In attendance were dignitaries from all SAARC nations, including the then Prime Minister of Pakistan, Nawaz Sharif. This was the first time that a Pakistani leader was attending the oath-taking of an Indian Prime Minister designate. There was optimism in the air. It seemed that the on-off love fest between the two otherwise hostile neighbors was about to begin once again.
I pointed out that we were at the beginning of our respective tenures with a clear mandate. This provides us the opportunity of meeting the hopes and aspirations of our peoples, that we will succeed in turning a new page in our relations.
In 2015, New Delhi returned the courtesy in a surprise visit. Prime Minister Modi stopped over in Lahore shortly after his visit to Afghanistan. He was there to visit Nawaz Sharif on his granddaughter's wedding. Seasoned observers of Indo-Pak ties received the news with excitement and hope. Predictions were made about how diplomatic relations were back on track. But Pakistan's army generals were miffed with the growing camaraderie. Exactly a year later, something happened. On the 2nd of January 2016, there was a terror attack in Pathankot. The Western Air Command of the Indian Air Force was targeted. 1 civilian and 7 security personnel were killed. The attack led to a breakdown in Indo-Pak relations. But Islamabad's naked aggression had just begun. On September 18, 2016, there was another terror attack, this time in Uri. It was the deadliest attack on Indian security forces in 2 decades. At least 19 soldiers were killed. The perpetrator was the Jaish-e-Mohammed, the terror group financed by the Pakistani deep state. The attack quashed all hopes of a thaw. New Delhi responded by striking terror pads in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. In the 4 years that followed, the India-Pakistan equation saw several flashpoints. The biggest was the 2019 Pulwama attack. Jaish-e-Mohammed targeted a CRPF convoy with a car laden with explosives. 49 CRPF personnel were slain, several others were injured. India avenged these deaths with the Balakot airstrikes. The Indian Air Force wiped out the biggest training camp of Jaish-e-Mohammed. But the hostilities did not stop. 2020 was one of the most active years at the line of control. There were at least 4,600 ceasefire violations by Pakistan, and a total of 46 security personnel were killed. The ceasefire agreement reached on the 25th of February is a largely tactical move. There's no guarantee that it would sustain, because nothing much has changed materially on the ground. On the diplomatic front, the rhetoric hasn't been toned down. Islamabad, in collusion with other nations, has kept the rhetorical fire on Kashmir alive at global platforms.
Opportunity to talk about Pakistan.
On the security front, Islamabad is openly trying to resurrect the Khalistan movement. Pakistan Army's drones have been seized in Punjab. And new terror groups have emerged in Kashmir with more secular names like the Resistance Front. The situation is hardly conducive to any kind of a thaw. Islamabad may be extending an olive branch, but there is no evidence of a fundamental shift in its policy on terror, or on the main bone of contention between the two countries, Kashmir. Bureau Report, WION. World is One.
WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.